وأطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم واصبروا إن الله مع الصابرين.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending peace and blessing upon his final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I want to say jazakumullah khair to each and every one of you for attending today's talk, inshallah ta'ala. And as the brother said, the topic that has been chosen for me is to talk about what type of Muslim are you? And then there's a question mark at the end of that, no doubt. So obviously if I was to ask you what type of Muslim are you, what are you going to say to me? You're going to just say you're a Muslim. So it seems like the answer is very simple, you see. But we're speaking about this topic and the type of Muslim you are in light of internal differences that we have. We're all Muslims here, alhamdulillah, today, or we reverted to al-Islam. Because this is an internal issue. When we ask what type of Muslim are you, it's an internal issue. I mean, we as Muslims, we're asking ourselves this. Because when you look to the non-Muslims and the non-Muslims that we're living amongst, to them they see you all as one. They don't see sects, they don't see groups, they don't see any of these things. Because of the limited knowledge that they have. As far as they're concerned is, this man, he believes in someone called Allah, that's their God. Their prophet is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They face Mecca. That's the understanding that they have. So to the average Joe Blog, as you would say on the street, they don't see you any different. Whether you call yourself, give me some groups that you want to call yourself. I don't want to be Shia. Any other groups? Ashari? Sufi? Okay, you said all of this because I didn't pick on anyone. Right? Very difficult talking about groups because then they start thinking, oh, the sheikh here, he wants to pick on this group. That's not the case. This is what people label themselves as. But to the general person on the street, the non-Muslim, and even the one Muslim who's not very knowledgeable, he says everyone has been Muslim. So this is one of the things we need to understand. It's not really an external issue. Okay? It only becomes an external issue. I mean, other people who are not Muslim want to get involved when they want to use it as leverage. So they say, oh, this type of Muslim, he is very extreme. This type of, and so on and so on. And then they use that as leverage to bring in whatever they want. But the way the brothers here and the Jama'ah here want me to tackle this issue is obviously to talk about it from an internal point of view because we want to understand our differences and then move on. I'm sure that's what we want to do. We want to understand what the differences are and then move on, and then hopefully cooperate, or see if there's a platform where we can come to cooperate, and then try to do some good, inshallah ta'ala. So this is the angle we want to hit it today, inshallah ta'ala, if we can. So as I said, first and foremost, when it comes to the issue of what type of Muslim are you, obviously we're going to just say we are Muslim. We are just Muslim because from a divine point of view, from what Allah Azza wa Jalla wants from us, and what the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called us, this is all that we're asked to label ourselves as Muslim. That's why I said in the verse, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of al-Islam. Which means as a Muslim. Because this is the main thing we need to understand. The Muslim is the one who submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, submits to the Sunnah of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and follows al-Islam. So it's important for us to understand this aspect of it. And that's why when we make dua, Salatul Janazah, we have a specific dua, do we not? For the person who has died. We said, Allah, the one that you caused to live, let him live upon what? Ahyayhi ala Islam. We say, let him live upon Islam. And the one you cause to die, we say what? وَتَوَفَّاهُ عَلَى. Do you know your dua in Salatul Janazah? When you do Salatul Janazah behind the Imam, there is a dua you should make for the person. Okay? In Salatul Janazah, just so you know, this is going to be your homework, inshallah ta'ala. Salatul Janazah, when you do there's 4 takbir, isn't there? Yes? After the 3rd takbir is when you're making dua for the deceased. And amongst the du'as that you say is, Oh Allah, who you cause to live, let them live upon al-Islam, and those that you cause to die, then let them die upon Iman. Now why did we mention Islam and Iman here? Why did we mention the 2 different things? Don't people die with the Islam? Go on, akhi, inshallah ta'ala. You cannot die except unless you have Iman, unless you're of a level of a mu'min. La yadkhulul jannah illa mu'min. Nobody is going to enter unless they have the Iman. But we all, what do we judge by? The outer. So we judge you by your Islam. We judge you by what you practice, what we see. So when we see you practice Islam, we say you're a Muslim. Your Iman is something that Allah knows, the level of your Iman. Because some people, they came in the time of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they said to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we are believers. When did they take the Shahada? Just a few days ago. They took the Shahada, now they want everything that Islam gives them, all the right, give to me. So they came to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they said, we are believers. They wanted to use that as leverage to get some haqq from the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allah revealed the verse, said, no, don't say you are believers yet. Say you have submitted, aslam. You have submitted. Externally we see you said, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. You have submitted. But the Iman, he has not entered your heart yet. Because the Iman is something, my dear Muslims, is something will always increase as long as you do what? Yazid bit ta'ah. As long as you are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Iman is always rising. So that's why you become to the level of a mu'min. But if you don't, yankus bil ma'siyah. It reduces. Every time you do sin, it reduces. So we find people, they will do sins and sins and sins and sin to the point of the level they can be labeled as someone fasik, means someone openly doing sin, or to the level they get to the point and they become what? Outside the fold of al-Islam. Okay? So it's very important we understand what is expected from us from a divine point of view from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What Allah is asking us is that we die upon al-Islam as Muslims. That's why one of the other verses I quoted, Qul inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Okay, say my prayer, my sacrifice, my living and dying is for who? Rabbil alameen. La sharika la. And I don't ascribe partners to it. Wa bidhalika umirtu wa ana awwalul muslimin. From Surah An'am. This is what I've been commanded, so I'm the first to submit and I'm the first amongst the Muslims. So I want to mention this because we need to understand the basic principles of what makes us Muslims, and this is what we should judge a person upon. Allah didn't ask us anything other than to call ourselves Muslims. And this is exactly what Allah called all of the previous believers. Millata abikum Ibrahim huwa samma'akum al-muslimina min qabl. You are on the millah of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Who is Ibrahim alayhi salam? Nabi of Allah, Khalil Allah, the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His name we mention in our salah every day, at least in the salah every day. In our tashahud, we have to mention that we are on the millah of Ibrahim alayhi salam. That verse in Surah Hajj says that Huwa samma'akum muslimin min qabl. He is the one. The verse says he is the one who called you Muslims before. Mufassirin say, who is it the one that said this? Is it Ibrahim alayhi salam that he called the people Muslims, or is it Allah that called the people Muslims? What do you think the Mufassirin said? Allah. Every believer, every submitter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless of the Prophet, as long as they submitted and accepted the Prophet, they are called Muslim. So now you're going to say to me, oh, so you're saying the people who followed Isa alayhi salam, they're Muslims? But they didn't speak Arabic. Did they speak Arabic? Did they speak Arabic? The people. What is the common language associated with Isa alayhi salam? Aramaic. So how can we say they are Muslims? Language. All languages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are Muslims in the sense, even whatever is in the Aramaic sense, a submitter. They submitted to Isa alayhi salam, so they became Muslim. Because of this, they accepted that Isa is the Nabi and the Rasul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we have to understand is whenever we talk about religion and who is inside the fold of religion, who is outside the fold, do we have to have certain principles? Because the religion belongs to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna dina inda Islam. So it's important we understand this. So when we label a person a Muslim, we do by the outer. And that's why one of the common faults we find in Muslims nowadays is that they take their Muslim like a citizenship, granted. You're born inside a Muslim household, what are you? Muslim for life. You know, like if you're born in the UK, you will get what colour passport will you get, Akhi? British, what colour?
Red apple.
Purple, yeah. How long do you have that? For life. See, some people, they think they're born into a Muslim household and that's it, they're Muslim for life. It's like a label like that. It doesn't work like that. What do we say about the person who doesn't pray? The one who doesn't fast? Ramadan come and gone. Ramadan we're looking forward to, it's coming soon. Doesn't give zakah. No intention to Hajj. What do we say Islam is built upon? Those 5 pillars. Built upon those 5 pillars. What do we say about the situation of such a person? Because really, what we find is that those people, they cause a lot of havoc in their own household. In fact, you will find those people who don't practice like that, what is prevalent in our society today? People upon drugs. You've taken alcohol. This is not the case. These people who take drugs and drink alcohol, do you think they care about halal food? Do you think they even care about halal food? They don't. The only reason they probably have halal food in the first place is that their parents brought the food. Otherwise they wouldn't care. So we're talking about differences. What type of Muslim are you? I think the first hurdle we want to make sure that when we discuss this issue is that we ask people and say, look, really, have you entered into Islam perfectly in the first place? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu udkhulu fi silmi kaffa wa la tattabi'u khutuwati ash-shaytan innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. And Allah is telling us this. Before we start having infightings and so on, we want to make sure that the masses, because the masses we want to deal with, have you entered into Islam perfectly? Have you submitted? Have you submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you have the alhamdulillah, you are ikhwan fi deen. You are our brother in deen. And this is how we will look at you, inshallah ta'ala. And that's why one of the funny things was, I was asking my son, Isa, my younger son, and I said to him, you know, if somebody was to ask you, what does your father do? What does your dad do? What would you say? He had a little think, and he said, I'll say, you're special. I said, okay. I said, what about if somebody asks you, what does your mother do? What does your mum do? What would you say? You say, she cooks, she cleans, she does the washing, she makes my bed. I said, okay, subhanallah, mashallah. So I said, explain to me, what do you understand when you say I'm special? Because people will say, well, how is your dad special? Explain. He goes, oh, well, dad, when you read Quran, you teach people Quran, I see you go to the mosque to pray, I see you do good things, mashallah. So I thought, I'm quite happy with that. He's only 9 years old. I said, I'm quite happy to be special in the eyes of my son. But what did he relate my specialness to? Deen. He said, you read Quran. You read Quran. And in fact, he was listening to me to recite the Quran. He goes, Dad, you sound really funny. It's almost like you're singing. And I said, it's not singing. You're going to learn this because you're doing hifz at the moment. But when you start to do tajweed, you're going to find it's beautiful. The Quran, when you do it with tajweed, better than any music out there. So everything he relates to me, you're special because of the fact I practice. It's my Islam that he sees. He doesn't see my iman. He doesn't see what I hold inside. But he's judging me by that. So I want us to understand this hurdle first and foremost, inshallah ta'ala. The second thing we need to understand is the issue of differences. Where does the internal differences, because I have to mention this, it's internal differences that we have amongst the Muslim come from. Because we want to start a platform where we're going to come and look at our differences and say, no, these are some differences that we have, but here we can come together and work together, inshallah. This is what we're trying to do. What we have to understand is, in the time of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, how many different madhaib was there? How many different aqaid was there? How many different madhabs were there? I mean, schools of thought when it comes to fiqh. How many schools of thoughts were there when it comes to belief matters?
One.
Only one. MashaAllah, brother. Very good. Why is it that there was only one?
The Prophet was there.
Prophet ﷺ was there. Who is he representing? He's representing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muhammadur Rasulullah. See, in the time of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there is no differences. Qala Allah, qala Rasul. Whatsoever the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. This was, which was our deen, this was our legislation, this is what we have to follow. So there was no differences. Rather, what do we find? If people didn't understand the thing, what would happen? They were going to ask the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, what do we do in this case? What do we do in this case? So there was no infighting in that sense. There was no infighting. If you didn't understand the thing, you went to the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If you wanted to understand more about the deen, you would just ask. So we find in the time of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there was none of these differences that we find today in the Ummah. In fact, one of the things the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wanted us to do is to stop asking questions a lot. On one occasion, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was being asked, because sometimes you get Bedouins that would come. Bedouins are not like the same as the Sahaba. The Sahaba are people who used to spend time with the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to learn of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So what you would find with Bedouins would come from around the outskirts, and they would come and they would ask sometimes the most basic of questions. And the Sahaba, sometimes they didn't mind this because, they wanted revision. Let's get it. But on other occasions, what would happen? People would ask the most minute things, which really you shouldn't worry too much about. Until the Sahaba, they noticed and they told people, stop this. And then the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam warned them and said, sometimes you ask about a thing excessively, to the point you bring upon yourself something that you didn't need to. Maybe Allah, He didn't legislate such a thing. Out of the mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. For example, to go to Hajj. A man asked the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, the Hajj, do we have to go every year? The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't answer. Because the answer would be what? Sharia. Yes or no becomes what? Sharia. Man asked again. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't answer. A third time, then the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, and it's quite different from some of the other answers that he would give. He said, if I was to say yes now, it would become obligatory and you would never be able to do it. So it was like an answer, no, yes or no. Basically, you don't have to go. So this to show you that in the time of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we didn't have the ikhtilaf, the differences that we have today, because the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came as the representative of the legislator, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's talk about how differences come, because we got to understand is that because sometimes people think that, Islam, if you practice Islam, it's perfect, and all the fitna comes when you try to bring imperfection into Islam. Sometimes people think that that is how the differences come. But if I was to tell you that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, even after the verse came, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-Islam dinan, after the verse came that Islam has been completed for you, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, then after that there will be differences. Then we find that when the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that there will be differences, this has to be part of the revelation as well. Let me explain to you how this works, inshallah. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, Man ya'ish minkum fasayara ikhtilafan kathira. You heard this hadith before? No. Very good hadith. MashaAllah, it's from Al-Arba'in Nawawi. Man ya'ish minkum fasayara ikhtilafan kathira. Fa'alaykum bisunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa al-rashidin al-mahdiin min ba'di. Addu alayha binawajid. Then the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, wa iyakum al-muhtata wa kulla muhtata al-dalala. This is this portion of a hadith. What did the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say? He said, Man ya'ish minkum. Whoever will live, man ya'ish minkum, fasayyara, he will see many things. So the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was saying, those amongst you, who was he talking to? Sahaba. Those amongst you who live for a long time, fasayyara ikhtilafan kathira. He will see a lot of differences. Now, hands up who knows Arabic a little bit here. MashaAllah. Little bit, shway qalil. Shway? MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Okay. ما فرق بين فسيارة وفسوف؟ فسوف فسيارة. ما معنى سيارة? What is the meaning of سيارة? You will see. Sofa means what? Arabic. Future. No, this is the uniqueness and the comprehensiveness of the speech of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He could have said in the future there's going to be differences, but he said fasayara, you're going to see. I mean, who was this speaking to? The Sahaba. Who was in amongst the companions there? Abu Bakr Sadiq, Omar al-Khattab, Uthman bin Affan, Ali bin Abi Talib, radiyallahu anhum. May Allah be pleased with each and every one of them. These are the people that were in the audience. They're listening to this hadith being quoted. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to them, those amongst you who live for a long period, what are you going to see? You're going to see so much differences. And this is the same for anyone. If Allah gives you a long life, you're going to see differences. You will definitely see differences. You speak to somebody who's got the birthday card from the Queen. Congratulations, you're 100 years old. You go and speak to that person, what will they say? They will say, I remember a time when there was no TV. There was none of these. And they will go on and go on. They say in their lifetime, in 100 years, they've seen so much changes. Because time naturally moves on. But this is regards to Madani, technology and so on. But the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam here is saying that whoso amongst you lives on, you're going to see so much differences in religion. You're going to see so much differences in religion. People who want to practice Al-Islam, you're going to see differences. So we found from the very start, after the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed away, what happened? In the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq, what was the first fitna that we find happened? People didn't want to pay?
Zakat.
Okay, so somebody doesn't want to pay zakah. How would we consider that person? Because we have to remember, this is a difference now we have. Somebody doesn't want to pay zakah. How would you treat him, my dear Muslim? It's very... Give them benefit of the doubt, you try and explain to them, you try to do this and that. Okay, there's many Muslims that entered in the fold in the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq. Okay, I want you to understand this, because they were told there's going to be differences. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to be the four rightly guided caliphs. You have to deal with the issues that are going to come upon you. Okay, there's no prophecy after that, is there? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam not going to come back or come into the dream and give you any more prophecy. He's not going to do that. There is going to be ikhtilaf. You are the rightly guided khulafa, Rashid. So Abu Bakr Siddiq, what does he do on this? There are people, they are praying, they've given the shahada even at the hands of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The people don't want to pay zakah. So he said, let's amass an army, we are going to fight them. Who comes and interrupts? Omar al-Khattab. He goes, Ya Abu Bakr, you're going to fight a people, but they give the shahada. And they pray. What's happening here? Two of the people mentioned rightly guided, they are having a bit of a banter here. So Abu Bakr Siddiq says, I'm not going to differentiate between the salah and the zakah. Because Allah says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Many times you find this. It's a principle. That's why whenever you teach the principles or the pillars of Al-Islam, you teach them the shahada, you teach them the salah, and you must always teach them the zakah next. Because this is the way Allah taught us. Because sometimes we find people like to put saum next. It's easy one to explain to people. No, zakah. So Abu Bakr Siddiq, he says, I'm not going to make a differentiation. And then he grabs Omar. He says, A-Jabbar fil Jahiliyyah, Al-Khawwar fil Islam. You're a Jabbar. Used to be someone mighty, strong. The Muslim, they made dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, oh Allah, guide Omar to Al-Islam. And the Muslims said in Mecca, we only prayed openly once Omar became Muslim. Abu Bakr Siddiq says to him, you used to be a Jabbar fil Jahiliyyah, Khawwar. Now someone I can rely on, someone weak in Islam. Listen to what Omar says. He says, nothing happened on that day except that Allah opened the heart, the breast of Abu Bakr Siddiq to see the truth. Subhanallah. Why did I say Omar said this? The reason being, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if there was a prophet after me, it would be Omar. Omar is not revelation, it's a karama that he has this sense of feeling, we go with Abu Bakr Siddiq on this. It's the opinion of one man against the rest of the Ummah. We are going to fight these people. Abu Bakr Siddiq, what did he do? He went and fought the people. The people there were not like hundreds or 1,000 or 2,000. Some of the armies that they had to fight were 40,000 strong. These people, they're proclaiming they're Muslims. Abu Bakr Siddiq, he fought them and he killed a lot of them. And afterwards, when they surrendered, listen to what Abu Bakr Siddiq said. He said, you have come in, you are brothers in deen now. You made sincere tawbah, we accept you back inside the fold of Al-Islam. As for those that have died, we are not going to pay 1 dinar or dirham as blood money. Because if you kill a Muslim accidentally or in fitna, then you have to pay blood money. He said, I am not going to pay 1 dinar or dirham as blood money because they died outside the fold of Al-Islam. Can you see the fitna? When did this happen? Literally the year after the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed away. Prophecy. So you have to deal with these differences. So if Abu Bakr Siddiq did not stand for zakah at that time, then what would you find the Ummah? The Ummah would be lacking, would never be able to progress. Because when we come to the time of Omar al-Khattab, what do we find? Omar, he was what? He was shadid. Ashidduhum fi amrillah. He was harsh when he came to dealing with the people. Once Omar al-Khattab came in to rule, one of the things we all love talking about Omar. Okay, be harsh, yes, when the time is right. Not just on your wife, please. That's what I'm going to say. A lot of the women, they don't like talking to Omar. They come back and they're so harsh and everything. No. Omar, he was harsh, but he needed to be harsh. For what reason? The Ummah. No one could move without him to know. He was like this. The Sahaba, they weren't allowed to travel and so on. So what happened in the time of Omar, there was very little differences. Rather, he had all the kibar of the Sahaba there. And what he would do, Omar, he would be very good. He would have shura. So if the new matter came up, he would ask, where is Ahl al-Badr? Where are the people of Badr? Ahl al-Uhud? Where are Ashara Mubashar? Where are these? He would give them such lovely title, bring them, and he would discuss. So that's why over the 10 years when Omar was ruling, there was little in the differences. People obviously, there was opponents against Omar, but they couldn't move because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Omar, he is like a bab, he's like a gate. He is stopping the fitna. He is stopping the fitna on the rest of the Ummah, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why people loved Omar, because of the fact that even though he was harsh, there was unity. Because what was he ruling by? Sharia. Abu Bakr was doing the same, but he was being harsh for the sake of the Sharia, nothing else, not his personal opinions. A lot of the rulers that came afterwards were harsh, severe, but they weren't being harsh or severe for the sake of the Sharia, rather their own desires in some cases. So when we find that Omar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he passed away, and in fact he was assassinated, just to show you that even amongst all that security he was assassinated, we find Uthman ruled. How long did he rule for? Did he conquer? How much? 12 years. Did he conquer or not? Tell me. He conquered a lot. He was very successful caliph. What Omar conquered, pretty much similar, if not more, Uthman conquered. It shows momentum continues. You know the momentum. What Omar left as a legacy continue. In fact, in the time of Uthman, they conquered more by even water and so on. They had navies. It was very sophisticated, the army of Islam. But look to the difference of approach now. Uthman was someone very relaxed. He used to give people a chance to move around and do so. So what would happen, in the time of Uthman, the companions, they moved away. They went to all different areas now to go and propagate, to teach the people. So they weren't just there in Medina. What happened then? Those people who are maybe against Omar in the first place, and the opinions of that group of companions, they rose. They rose in areas like in Egypt, they rose in areas like in Iraq, they rose and they came and they formed an army. And he said in the end, when they came to attack Uthman, an army came of 1,000 people strong. Where are the other Muslims? They're around, but they were elsewhere. They didn't think the fitna was going to be that bad internally. Till what did they do? They came and they assassinated Uthman. When is all this fitna happening? Within just a few decades after the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. And then finally we find obviously the big fitna that happened. And I'm giving you an example of the different types of fitna that happened. The fitna that happened in the time of Uthman was the people who disagreed with the opinions of Uthman. They weren't necessarily always Sahaba, but some Sahaba managed to be roped into it. But then when we find in the time of Ali, we find Sahabas different now. Sahabas differed. To the point, you had an army. On one side of the army you had Ali, Ibn Abbas, Ibn Omar, and on the other side of the army, do you know some of the names? Muawiyah, Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, you had Talha, which is Ashara Mubashara, Az-Zubair, they are facing each other. This is the big fitness. This is the sort of thing that people don't really like to talk about because they can't even comprehend what actually happened there. But there were two armies ready to face each other. Who was correct at that time? Why is it correct? He was trying to get unity, but also what is he considered as? The rightly guided caliph. He was the caliph, and remember we said whenever there is differences, who should you follow? Ali ibn Abi Talib. And obviously, from what we find is even at that time, a huge fraction, to the point some people now rejected the previous caliph, and then they become Ahlul Shia. Okay, so why did I mention this? Just to show you that sometimes we think that just having Islamic rule will bring about harmony, and this is the way to unity. No, you will find we have fulfilled the obligation to please our Maker, Allah Azza wa Jalla. But that's not to say that there will be people against you for this. That's not to say that there will be people against you. So not necessarily the fact that you have Islamic rule will mean that there will be harmony and unity as per se. But it will bring harmony from the point of view of the Sharia, and if the people submit as well, because the people have to submit. They have to submit as Muslims in the first place, then you will get this equilibrium in society, inshallah. So this was talking about, given a history about the issue of differences. And the differences continues. The differences continues into the point where we get the 4 madha'ib. The 4 imams, yes? Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Now I want to explain to you. These people, they are the A'immah, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Now it's the first time I mentioned Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Most people would have started this talk saying, we are Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and this is what we are going to propagate. I said, no. These are the Imam, these are the Imams of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Now, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, you will never find this term in any ahadith, and you will never find this term in any ayat. I can guarantee that. So where do we get this terminology from? We are talking about now, in the time of the 4 Imams, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. People who come up now say we are Ahlul Sunnah, people of Sunnah, and we are part of the Jama'ah of the unity. The reason being, now you have different factions. Now you have different people labeling themselves. So differentiate yourself from them, and this is what you'll do. You'll say, I'm people of the Sunnah, because remember, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said in a hadith, and he said, Taraktukum alal bayda, layluha ka nahari. I left you on a thing which is so clear. Al-bayda is so clear. Layluha ka nahari. Its night is like the day. Its night is like the day, which means it's so clear. Normally we struggle to find something in the dark. Have you followed the news today? What did they say is going to happen tomorrow night? Not followed the news? They said the moon will be the closest it's ever been to the earth in the year. So it's going to be like a super moon, they said. Which means there's going to be a lot of light, natural light. I mean, we live in a city, so we're used to a lot of artificial light. But on tomorrow night, and you're probably going to do this now, look, hopefully you will. Because the moon is a beautiful thing anyway. Remember, they described the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam face like Al-Badr, the full moon. So the moon is going to be very close to the earth, and it's obviously very big at this point at the moment, in the sense of the cycle of the moon. So you will see the moon, the closer that it is. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I left you upon something that is so clear. I mean, Al-Islam, its night is just like the day. I mean, you're not going to be confused. Then the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Man yazig anha, the one who leaves this, illa halik. The one who leaves this is going to be astray. He's going to be destroyed. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam telling us that if we leave this. So these Imams, they rose at that time. Now, just want to explain the other issue. The Imams, they rose, but they rose in a time they were facing fitna. Abu Hanifa, he was offered the post of being a qadi. Qadi means a judge. By who? Do you know your rulers? Al-Mansur, second Abbasid Caliph. What is this post? This post is so you can be one of the great judges and rule by Sharia. He never accepted it because he found there was corruption in the government from his own opinion. So he did not want to be a representative and be a judge. Al-Mansur, what he did, he put Abu Hanifa in prison. And then he let him come out, and then when he wouldn't accept, put him back in prison. For what reason? The fact he wouldn't accept a post as a judge. Now, sometimes we don't talk about these things because these are dark days. They seem like really dark days. We just want to hear about Abu Hanifa, and then we want to argue between ourselves. Where do you place your hand? It's not here, it's under the belly button. This is what Muslims are worried about. They don't realize what Abu Hanifa went through to bring us the fiqh. This is what Muslims, we want to argue about those things. SubhanAllah, he faced, in his eyes, a ruler which was not suitable for him. Abu Hanifa, where did he die? In prison. He died in prison, and they found him in sujood, which shows the end of a person. If Allah wishes a good ending. That's why at his janazah many people were there. Imam Malik, who is what? Imam Dar al-Hijrah, in his time he was flogged. They pulled his arm out. Imam Malik, most of the fiqh that you find in North Africa is Maliki. So to bring his fiqh, to bring his opinion, because it was his opinion, Imam Malik, what he wrote on one occasion was the issue of forced marriage is not acceptable. He wrote a fatwa. So they punished him for this. So just to show you, a difference of opinion, even in the time of when we were supposed to be united, will happen. But the reason I mention all these cases is we have to learn from the past. We can't come around now and say, oh, we are in the 21st century and Muslims are like this and I've come up with a new solution. It doesn't work like this. We have to understand that there were people more pious than us, closer to the revelation than us, more taqi, God-fearing in all sense. They faced this. Let's look to how they dealt with it, and let's to see how the ummah was. I'm going to bring it to a nice conclusion, inshallah. I'm hoping, okay? But just to explain to it, so there we find that Imam Shafi, he faced a lot of debate where he went. Imam Shafi wasn't in prison and such, but he went for a few different areas, and people liked the Shafi because he was in Hijaz. Then he went to Iraq, he went to Sham, and then into Egypt. People loved him because of the fact of his variety that he had. And then we have Al-Imam Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Al-Imam, the Imam of all Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah of his time, who is who? Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who was imprisoned. He's imprisoned by one caliph, Al-Ma'mun, because of the fact, what did he rise up against? He was saying that the Quran is ghayr makhluk, not created. And the people were saying the Quran, these words, we created. They come from Allah, but we create the sound and everything like that. Whereas Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, no, even the tune, this is the tune of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we are saying. So there was a big fitna there. One caliph, Al-Ma'mun, he imprisoned him. Another caliph come, Al-Mu'tasim, Al-Mu'tasim, the Roman, he had Ahmad ibn Hanbal still in prison. Then another one came, Al-Wathiq. Another caliph came. Look, 3 caliphs come, all trying to imprison Ahmad ibn Hanbal, until Al-Mutawakkil came, a 4th caliph, and he agreed with Ahmad ibn Hanbal and he freed him. Now, just to show you, we take our deen for granted. Sometimes we don't even do the research into what is the difference, what is the cause of the difference, how did people resolve in the past. We don't even look at that. We're just happy to be a label and go along with the label nowadays. This is the problem that we find. So we have to understand unity, we have to understand what people did in the time of differences and why there were differences in the first place, inshallah. So let's talk about now in the latter part, inshallah ta'ala, about unity. And let's talk about cooperation, because I'm sure that's what the brothers want to understand from this talk, inshallah, and this is what we want to take away, inshallah. One of the things that we need to understand is, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ MashaAllah. Okay, this is a verse from Surah Ma'idah. Okay, Ma'idah, which Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَتَعَاوَنُوا, come, ta'awun means come together, عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا, do not come together, al-ithim wal-udwan. Okay, come together when it comes to the point of bir. What is bir? What do we understand by bir? Piety. But how do you define piety? Commanding good. Every terminology, if it's in the Quran or Hadith, has an explanation to it. We just use piety and so on, but we need to have to understand what piety is. Piety, for example, al-bir, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you are right in your sense, but I'll just give you a definition as well, what the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said. Al-bir husnul khuluq. The bir is good character. The bir is that. Bir is good character, I mean you are someone who is tranquil, contempt, the way you behave with people. When you come together to do a good thing, if you find somebody wants to call towards this bir, which is good character, then what should we do? We should join with him. Okay, we should join with him. So, who do we cooperate? Anyone who is calling to al-bir. What is bir? Good character. Who do we take the character from? وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Take the good character from the one who imitates the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we find people like that, mashallah, we will join with them. Just give you a cry, because we've got to have a checklist of who we want to cooperate with. Okay? Okay. Then the verse says, what taqwa? Now, taqwa, explain taqwa to me. Some people could even say piety again. That's what I was going to say. English doesn't do justice to it. Okay? Some people, when you say what is bir, piety, what is taqwa? Piety. See, this is the difference. Taqwa is something different. It means God consciousness, but to fear. So, ittaqillah haythuma kunta. Fear Allah wherever you are. So we find people there fearing Allah. In what sense? Halal and the haram. Yes? So the one who has taqwa, we find people who have taqwa, we mean now they got good character and they're God-fearing, I mean they will never call upon anything that is haram. And so what do we do? What do we do to these people? We can join them. This is criteria. وَلَا تَعَوْنْ عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. But we don't join with which type of people? Those who call towards ithm. Now what is ithm? Okay. Now sometimes Muslims, they sin sometimes day and night. Okay? And you think, how is it that they can sin day and night? Some people, they do this. Okay? Because some sin, so clear, but other sin, they go into the shubahat. And that's why one of the things the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Al-ithim ma haka fi nafsik. The sin is the thing that doesn't settle in your heart. Okay, I'll give you an example. Voting. The issue of voting happened yesterday. Okay? We discussed the issue of voting. A lot of people said, oh, voting is not an issue, so we vote. A lot of other people said it's totally haram, leads to kufr and shirk, so on, so. We say, if there is any shubahat on this issue, and it doesn't settle in your heart, what should you do? Leave it. Leave it. Because a lot of the time, I was asking the question yesterday, not because I was going for pro and against or pushing my opinion to anyone. I said, what have the scholars said on this issue? I said, what have the scholars said? Some people, they said, look, don't worry about it, now is the time, go and vote. But I said, what have the scholars said? Have you even looked to what the scholars have said on this issue? Because, subhanAllah, when it comes to pray, do you pray as you wish? When you fast, do you fast as you wish? Huh? Why did the Al-Bukhari said, Al-ilm qabla qawl wal-amal? Imam Bukhari said, knowledge is before actions and saying. Or sayings or actions. So how come we forget all of these principles? Because now we think, oh, we're going to do some good. So all I asked with the question is, what do you feel? Is it right or wrong? And even yesterday I was speaking to my wife and we were talking about the issue of election. That, sometimes you can think, how the Muslims going to progress? Is it maybe this is the only way their voice is going to be heard? But I said, somebody has to give a legitimate Islamic Sharia point of view for this. Because maybe to my aql it's reasonable. That we are so many, because we're not a small minority anymore, are we? We are about, 3 million plus. We carry some weight in this country, yes? But somebody has to say from a Sharia point, I can do this action. Because I don't make up my deen. It's not ABC, is it? It's not DIY either. Somebody has to tell me. So I said, even if I was to vote, I know what will happen. My logic will say I've done right, but when I come back, my heart will say no. Did you even find out if the ruling was correct before you did this? It would never have settled in my heart. The very moment I would vote, I would have come out and I would have been sick. Because why? At the moment I have the shubahat on it. Nothing. The people I've studied with, or the people I've listened, no one's convincingly giving me the argument that you should vote. Because that's how I take my deen. Very simple. Got to be based on principles. So itham sometimes is not necessarily clearly what is known, but sometimes that which doesn't even settle in your heart. So sometimes you go to a thing, you don't know. If it doesn't settle in your heart, what should you do? Leave it. So, وَلَا تَعَوَنْ عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. What is udwan? Udwan is clear transgression. And this is where we can say those groups who are truly transgressed, whether you label them and so on. People who say we can ask from the people of the grave, truly transgressed. Okay, people, like one brother asked me the other day, what do we do behind the imam? He leads the salah, and in the dua in Arabic he says, we ask of you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are the controller of the universe. But you know what, these brothers, I rate them, you know why? They didn't just go and tackle him. Because straight away you know what to do, yes? But they said, let's ask somebody maybe a little bit more knowledgeable than us. How do we deal with this person? I said, if he said it exactly like this, oh Muhammad, we ask of you, and you are the control of the universe, this is major shirk. This is somebody who's called a God other than Allah. But I said, has anyone explained this to him? Because sometimes, you know, these imams, and I can pick on them because I'm from the Asian subcontinent myself. They say a lot of Arabic, they haven't got a clue what they're saying. I'll be honest with you, okay? They say a lot of Arabic, so has someone explained it to him? And I said, maybe this man will only take it from another alim or maulana. So we will have to send someone like that in his presence, because he's not going to take it from you, fulan. Okay? In your Stone Island shirt and Ben Sherman, he's not going to take it from you. He's not going to take it because he has some principle. He's going to say, I studied Islam for 16 years. So I said, no, he's done something major shirk, but somebody still has to go and make sure, was he aware of what he just said? Because he may have just learned it from another book, and so on. So I said, thank you for that, Ustadh. We were just thinking that. And I said, good, inshallah. But if after it's been explained to him, then he has truly transgressed. You can't pray behind this person. You can't, because he's doing shirk, he's a mushrik. So this is what we need to understand. We need to understand what are the boundaries for what is piety, what is fearing Allah. If we know those boundaries, which means knowledge is needed, yes? And we need people who are knowledgeable in this, then we can work with you. Okay? Because whatever it comes to, if it's to do with that goodness, then we can work. And sometimes you can even work with non-Muslims. Just to give you an example. You can work with non-Muslims. I'll give you an example. You're going to build a mosque. And you're going to build a courtyard. And you're going to build... Sometimes the most skilled person there is what? A non-Muslim. He wants to do the work. Can we hire him? Yes. You can hire him. Why not? Okay, non-Muslim, they want to come and use your facilities, but they want to speak about religion generally. Do you allow them in the mosque? You don't allow them? They want to discuss religion. Discuss religion. But they can't hire it. They cannot hire it to teach the religion, but they want to come in. You can bring, can you say, now you're incorporated them to use your facility, but you're going to have a discussion. Because quite often we find these discussions between non-Muslim Muslims. Where are the discussion? Always in a hired hall. Because the chairman says, we can't have this. We can't have this man, he's a pastor, he wants to come and talk religion here, but rather you go to who? But if an MP comes in, it's fine. No, I'm just saying, if the MP comes in, it's fine. Do you understand? This is how we work. It's a bit of, we need to be knowledgeable about how we do things. So this is what we want to do. But we find people, they may transgress, they call to people in the grave, they make dua to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They bring in things. Remember one of the narration, part of the narration of the hadith is the bid'ah. I warn you against the muhdathah, which is the newly invented matter. And the bid'ah is the thing that you add. Let me explain to you bid'ah, because sometimes people don't understand what bid'ah is. They say microphone is bid'ah. This is bid'ah. Do you understand? They say English wear clothes is bid'ah. You know, this is not the bid'ah. Bid'ah is anyone who does something and he tries to resemble the Sharia. I'll give you an example. Somebody sits and is murmuring. You're thinking he's doing adhkar, but he's not. All he's doing is that tune. I'm not joking. He's just doing a tune. And I find people like that in the mosque. Sometimes you go in and you find someone just doing that. And there's people who walk to the mosque and you can hear them walking into the door. They're not reciting anything. They're not. It's just, this is bid'ah. Because it's not, you're resembling someone who's trying to be pious. I don't want people to hear my recitation, but I'm going through this. No, this is bid'ah. This is a bid'ah that people do. So anything that resembles the Sharia and you try to make the people think it's Sharia, bid'ah. Stay away from this, inshallah. So I'm going to conclude now, inshallah. To explain to you really the points that were discussed today. Firstly, we need to be clear about who is the Muslim, and the main thing we need to understand is the biggest obligation on us, rather than to sift through differences, is that we try to call people to Al-Islam in the first place. Because what will happen, people will enter the fold and people will leave the fold. Do you understand? It's just the way of life. But what we try to do is try to bring as many people in as we can, okay, and try to keep them upon Al-Islam. So first thing we try to do is do this. The da'wah is the most important thing. So whenever you come to form a jama'ah of any form, it cannot be the fact we form a jama'ah to just criticize another group. It can't be. This is very negative. Always has to be that you're calling to al-khair. So if you have that basis, firstly, your intention will be correct, and Allah will give you barakah in this as well, inshallah. We're always calling people to Islam. Secondly, to understand that when we represent Islam and we talk about Islam amongst the Muslims, we're not to make it all rosy. We need to truly understand our history. Some of the best of people were tried and tested, but what we need to understand is how did they deal with it. And we find that, for example, I'll give you one last example, inshallah. Al-Hajjaj bin Yusuf al-Thaqafi. Who was he? Does anyone know? Al-Hajjaj. He was a governor, okay? He originally governor from Syria and so on. He came, Al-Hajjaj was someone, he used to like to pick on Sahaba and Tabi'in. Al-Hajjaj, yes? But he was a governor, a ruler. I mean, to be a governor for some of these places is like countries now. But what did the Muslims do behind him? Did they pray behind him or not pray behind him? They prayed behind him. But some Muslims, they rose. What did he do to those Muslims? What did he do to those Muslims? He killed the Muslims. Okay? To the point some people said, now this caused him to be outside the fold. But we find the majority of the people, what did they do? Even though there was a tyrant amongst them, they prayed behind him and they didn't rise against him. Why? We need to look into the situation. Because sometimes we just think someone bad, that we all have to rise against him. You have to understand the situation. There's something called the greater good or the greater harm. You have to weigh all of these sort of things out. So we need to look into our past to see how the Saleh Saleh, the previous predecessors, the pious predecessors, they looked at a situation. So we need to do our research and so on before we can actually just go around and just say, no, this is how we're going to tackle it. Because it's easy to be harsh, easy to be going and just criticizing. It's very easy to do this, whereas it's more difficult to build upon something. The other thing we need to understand is the difference will be there till Yawm al-Qiyamah. The difference will be there till Yawm al-Qiyamah, because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that my ummah will split into how many sects? 73 sects. Okay, kulluhum fin nar. They're all going to be in the hellfire. Illa millata wahida. Except one sect is going to be saved. So what did the Sahaba say? Ma hiya ya Rasulullah. Who are they, ya Rasulullah? He said, ma ana alayhi wa ashabi. Who are upon what I am and my companions. Which means majority upon good, upon guidance or misguidance. What would you say? Misguidance. In some ways they're going to be a different sect. Okay? Because it's just the proportion you're looking at. So the ones who are calling to the haqq are going to be minority. But they are going to be, what did the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say? Saved sect. So what you need to do is when you form a group, when you want to call to what the safe sect is calling, you want to call to the principles of the safe sect. And what you want to do, when you call with khair, in the best manner, but realize that the reality, you have to be focused on reality, that there will be differences. But those differences will be to Yawm al-Qiyamah. All you could do is try to grab as many people as you can. To think that you're going to convert the masses is not going to happen. And if this sort of attitude, firstly, will cause more conflict, and secondly, what will it cause? It will cause despair in you. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was told not to have despair in this sort of issues. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the tawfiq to be upon the safe sect, to understand the haqq, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives tawfiq for us to unite as a ummah wherever we may be. وَقُولِ قَوْلِ هَذَا أَسْتَغْفِرُ لِي وَلَكُمْ.
Jazakallah khair for that. Any question and answers? Sisters, if you write down, pass to the front. Brothers, raise your hands. While we're waiting for... You got an answer?
Yeah, answer.
Obviously some people, just going back to the title of the topic, when some people say, what type of Muslim are you? They'll say, I'm Hanafi, I'm Salafi, I'm Sufi. How would you respond to them in that, inshallah?
Okay, mashallah. Can you repeat the question for the sisters?
Yeah, the question is, how would you respond to people who says, what type of Muslim are you? Are you Hanafi, Salafi, and etc.? How do you respond to a question to explain what Muslim are you?
Okay, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. It's a very good question you mentioned. It's something that obviously I could have mentioned in the talk as well, but for the restriction of time I didn't mention. This thing of differences, the differences are on a few different issues. Firstly, it can be on the issue of aqaid, belief matters. So there'll be some people that would have certain issues with regards to what they understand of God and the pillars of Iman. Okay, and we say this is a differentiation in regards to aqaid. So one of the things that we had in the time of the our Salaf is that some people even differentiate themselves on the issue of qadr. So some people, they became known as Jabariya, okay, and some people became known as Qadariya. So one group, they believe, for example, that Allah, He forces you to do things. So you have no say. And other people say, no, there's no such thing as qadr. So there's a difference on this and so on. But the issue that the brother mentioned about titling yourself to madhab is something else. Madhab is different in regards to fiqh, laws, how you practice and so on. So we need to understand that there can be difference with regards to aqaid issues, and there can be difference with regards to fiqh. Now, one of the most popular one is the fiqh. Because if you label yourself as Hanafi, you have labeled yourself at least with someone who is from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. What is this problematic or is this progressive? How does it work? Well, we need to see how it was dealt with in the past. Was it something progressive? It wasn't actually something progressive. To call yourself Hanafi, to call yourself Maliki or Shafi or Hanbali caused great fitna. In the beginning, the scholars did this because they wanted to be with the school of thought, to show that when you look to our works, you may disagree, but know that we are following the usul of this school of thought. There's nothing more than that. Because their foundations that they have and what they base their thoughts on was different. They took different things into consideration. So initially they did it just to say that we are a school of thought and so on and so on. But later on, people, they started to make it as though this was something that you need to label yourself at because this is a sect, and they took it as a wrong way. To the point what would happen, we're talking about in the past even, someone who was Shafi would not marry their daughter to someone Hanafi. They saw each other as heretic. That's how they looked at it. Ajib. Someone Maliki would not marry someone Hanbali. And you think that is bad? When he came to the Kaaba, if you look at the history of the Kaaba, you will find that there were 4 corners. What are the corners called? Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi and Hanbali. They used to have 4 Jama'at every Salah time. Tell me, is this progressive? Not progressive. No, this is, so to label yourself like this is not good. The only way you should use, the only time you should use this is if you're with a school of thought, you're a teacher and you want to show your opinion. You want to show your opinion. It's very important. Because on fiqh, sometimes people don't understand. Especially the issue of touching women's hand and so on. Shafi are very strict. You touch a woman's hand, what's happened to your wudu? Hanafi? No, bro. Can you see? See, so in that sense, it's okay. But it should be only used for those people involved in teaching and so on and linked to the school. But you who are general muqallid, your follower, you're just praying, and you just because you have allegiance to a Hanafi school and because that's the way you were taught to pray, this is the wrong attitude to have. Because what you'll find when the general imam they talk like this is just to browbeat each other, and that's the problem that we have. So in that sense, it's not progressive. And now obviously we find with the scholars, a lot of scholars, they don't even actually say the Hanbali or Hanafi and so on. They say rather we follow Quran and Sunnah. Because there was no, in the time of the Sahaba, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi or Hanbali. There wasn't. Now I know these people who come out and speak like that, they looked upon as heretic, but they're not. In the sense, you've got to understand, we were not told to follow any of those things. It's only good for the general awam who don't understand fiqh, at least they can say, the way I pray is from this school of thought and they're the evidence that they have. So this is what we need to understand regarding this, inshaAllah ta'ala, and Allah SWT knows best. Prophet. Wa alaikum salam.
Just hold on. 6 sisters, inshallah. Just take one from the sisters, then I'll be with you, inshallah. Should one ignore the shirk committed by a Shia friend in order to promote unity, or should we point out their wrongdoings?
Shukran. Okay, sure. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. What you need to understand is, with regards to Shia, even because we don't actually study about Shia ourselves, there is different levels of Shia. Some who are outright heretics, I mean, even we use in our scholars, who said they are outside the fold of Al-Islam. Okay? And then some who are bordering upon shirk, and some who have difference of school of thought. Okay? I mean, you will find some Shia, because we as Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we object when we find their deen, the Shia, when they bring into cursing Sahaba and so on. When Allah is the one who praised them, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. So we find this is something distasteful to us, and obviously we know that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever hates the Sahaba, then what? We hate them, because we love and hate for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what we understand is there are Shia of many different forms. Many different forms. Some on the bordering, leaving the outside the fold, and some who are not. They are just deviants. And if you can imagine, the Sahaba, they dealt with people, and the Tabi'in, they dealt with people mainly as deviants, deviant from the path of Allah. Very rarely did they get to the point where they said these people are heretics. So we need to understand that. How do we deal with the Shia? We have to deal with the Shia on the basis on what we see on bir and piety and taqwa and so on. Because what you're going to understand is they follow a certain school of thought. They're based upon the certain principle. If what you see is not transgression and so on, then you can work with this person. Okay, in the end of the day, because I remember I said, what you find from the general mass, when they see you, they're not concerned. General mass, but they don't see a Sunni, Shia and so on. Rather they see you in the house and fighting. When yesterday I was reading Surah Munafiqun, which is the 63rd chapter, beautiful chapter, yes? When you read it, because it starts off like this, that Allah says that you will find the munafiqeen, they will come and they will bear testimony, you are the messenger of Allah. What is better than this? You are the messenger of Allah. But then Allah said, but Allah knows that you are His messenger. But Allah bears testimony that they, the munafiqeen, al-kadhibun. Okay, they're the liars. Now, I was just thinking at that time, these verses were revealed, and the munafiqeen are there, aren't they? They're there, aren't they? The hypocrites are there, and they're looking to each other and they say, not me. Not me. But they know they're hypocrites, but in front of everyone, that's not me. No. Can you see? Now, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being told they're munafiqeen amongst you, they're liars and so on and so on. They have kufr in their heart. But the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never fought them. Amongst the general masses, he had a united front. There's a lesson for us to learn from this. When he came to the general, because he lived amongst non-Muslims, there was a united front. What reason? The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I don't want the people to say that Muhammad is killing his companions. So it depends. Whatever you come to, I missed the focus of the question a little bit, but whatever it comes to, if the people are according to piety and so on, then that's fine, alhamdulillah. But if it is sin and like transgression, then you don't come together for this purpose. And also, what you can understand is, you need to mix with the people. Shia, Barelwi, Deobandi, whatever they may be, you need to mix with the people. I tell you why. Because there's hadith. On the start of that verse, وَتَعَوْنَ الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَوْنَ عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. The start of this verse, there is a hadith that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the Muslim who goes and mingles amongst the people, and he puts up with their annoyance because of the difference, he is what? Rewarded more than the one who abstains. SubhanAllah, can you see this? The one who abstains, he doesn't get the reward. He thinks he's protected his deen. No. The hadith says the one who goes out and he mingles amongst these people, even though there are the differences, and he is patient with their annoyance, they are getting annoyed, you are getting annoyed by them, you are rewarded more for this. Which now you can understand why the Sahaba, they used to go around and mingle with them. But you don't cooperate with them, but you put up with their annoyance and you ask Allah to guide them, and where you can, you debate with them. Like Ibn Abbas, he debated with them. But you're not always going to be able to debate. But when you do debate in the best of, man, I remember this, and Allah SWT knows best. think the brother had a point.
You were talking about the 4 Imams, and what my understanding is that all of them said to the words of effect that if you've any evidence better than my hadith, then throw mine against the wall and follow the evidence.
MashaAllah.
Is it a question or a point?
I think there's a question.
Just asking, so when you say at the end, like you follow the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yeah, according to before, you said, you know, united for whatever the evidence is that just saying you're Salafi?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah, I've got the question.
This is what he said. When you break down, we're all Muslims.
Yes, mashallah.
When you break it down, and in the end, you come to the final thing, I'm Salafi.
Okay, mashallah. So it's another label. I'll mention, it's a good question, brother. Jazakallah khair for asking that. It was a very good point, okay? Because you can imagine, even myself, when I studied the deen, originally I wouldn't say hardcore Hanafi, but I studied so much Hanafi fiqh because the people I was studying was teaching me Hanafi. And then obviously you study with other people, Shafi, Hanbali and so on, and then you realize in the end, these titles, they just represent a school of thought, but really you're trying to draw close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow the Sunnah. And what these people, the 4 Imams, they practically more or less said is that if you find a hadith, okay, and then you find my opinion and it contradicts the hadith, then my madhab is the hadith. Because the verse is clear, you see, the verses were clear, but what was happening in their time was hadith was coming. Narrations of hadith was coming. And that's why a lot of people rely on Shaykh Albani, rahmatullah alayh, because he was muhaddith. You know, the one who has more hadith has more of the sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He has more of the sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the sunnah is an explanation of the deen, a greater explanation of the deen. Because some people, what they say is, I just follow Quran. Okay, and I've seen this. People, the Quran explains this, the Quran explains this. And you find this, that some people have so much passion with the Quran, all they say, the Quran explains everything. And I would say to these people, wrong. No, there would be no need for a messenger then. A book could have been just sent, okay, there, and somebody who can read Arabic could have just read to the people. No. I say these people are wrong. They may not have to recite the Quran in 10 different riwayah. Because you find these are the people, usually people who are very strong in Quran, they will say this. We say, no, this is a wrong attitude to have. No, the Quran gave the general detail. The specific detail is from who? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa aqimus salah, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. You would never know how to pray if it wasn't for the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So you do an injustice when you say the Quran just explains everything. No. His character, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was explaining that. Now, why did I mention this? The more hadith that comes, give you a great explanation of our deen. So the Imams, what was happening in the time of those Imams, like Abu Hanifa and so on, hadith was being collected. So when they found a new hadith came and it was sahih, they said, that is my mother. That is my mother. And that's why we have the luxury today of having all the collections here. We don't need to check them anymore. They've been certified and so on and authentic. So we have a wide range of understanding of the deen. So that's why even if we were to leave the madhab, we'd be fine. Why? Because you have the principles set up from this. So that's why we have Shaykh Albani and so on who come and they say we don't really follow madhab. There's no problem with this. What I'm saying is the madhabs, they do serve a good purpose. Because if you're not someone who studied, who is not well versed in Quran, understand Quran, and I don't mean just by recitation, I mean you don't know the shar of the Quran, then you need to follow a school of thought who has set the principles, so at least what you do is sahih. You're not going to mix it all up and so on. Because when the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli, pray as you see me pray, you can't just take one aspect of a hadith, another, and mix it. You have to follow someone who said, I saw the Prophet pray exactly like this. And that's where you get the thing. So just to answer your question, we are all Salafi in the sense we follow the Salaf. The Imams, they were following the Salaf. We are all Salafi in the sense that we're going back to our Salaf, the predecessors who are the ones who brought the deen to us. They're the one who relayed what they saw the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, do, and even what he consented to. They're the one bringing. So in that sense, we are all going to be, if we want to be from the true Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and the ones who follow the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companion, then you have to be someone who's Salafi in that sense, that you go back to their principles, inshallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Any other questions will be the final questions. If not, time to think. Okay, inshallah, there's going to be a short announcement, inshallah. As the brother said in the beginning, this is a talk based around unity. We're promoting a website regarding unity called help1ummah.com. That's help number one, the numerical number, ummah.com. Inshallah, just to give you a brief overview of the website and what the call is for. It's basically we're aiming to facilitate the unity of the Ummah. Not anyone had to work underneath us, or we're happy to work together. We're trying to facilitate unity. It's quite clear we're trying to facilitate rather than lead the way. We're trying to help that come about more easier, inshallah, so we can work collectively for the unity. Just to mention some positions and some promotions that we're trying to do, alhamdulillah, straight away. Number one, we've got a newsletter called The Ummah Speaks, inshallah. It's like we want to try and get the Ummah involved. It's basically a weekly newsletter, and it will be regarding latest news, events, sister section, brother section, etc., etc. If you go onto the website, you will see the Ummah Speaks. It will be actually one of the tabs. If you have a good look, help1ummah.com, you can see that, inshallah. If you want to get involved with that, which I suggest you do, because obviously if you get involved, it will be richer than having one author. The email address to post your contribution would be it's The Ummah Speaks. It's under that title because there's different emails we've got. It's The Ummah Speaks at help1ummah.com. It's quite long, but it goes directly to that section. So whoever's editing that, it's The Ummah Speaks at help1ummah.com. So inshallah, if you're interested in contributing to the sister section, then inshallah contribute, and then it will be uploaded once we've got enough content. It's not going to be overnight. Once we get enough content, inshallah, that will go ahead. And that will inshallah bring about unity. There is blogs on the Ummah, how can we unite, what's the causes of division, so we can get the discussion going of how can we unite. Let's speak in a mature and in a very mature manner with that in mind. And the other thing, which is a very, very easy initiative, which is promotion of good deeds, reviving sunnahs that in some ways have been left aside, or because of we're not using communication to the best of our ability. It's called the sick list, and it's promotion of visiting the sick. It's just an idea that was inspired to some brothers amongst the group, or we're not really a group, but we're people that's come together. I don't want to put us into another band. We're just another people that have just come together to try and facilitate unification. So yeah, it's called the sick list. You'll see it under One Ummah blog. There'll be another tab called the sick list. Now this sick list, there's going to be a sisters one and a brothers one. It's there. You can anyone can go on there. You need to basically list, with permission of the sick, the hospital that they're at, what type of sickness they've got, their name, the hospital's number, so it can be verified. It needs to be verified that they are actually sick. And what's that going to promote? It's going to promote people to visit them. Sisters should be visiting sisters, brothers should be visiting brothers. That goes without saying. If you do want to go with your wife or your sister, then you can go into the hospital and get the reward, but you don't have to go into the ward, obviously, on your own. So that is a promotion of the Sunnah, and that is active now. Obviously, if you could just try and promote that amongst yourself, there will be texts going around, but that's just one of the many initiatives that we want to promote. And you may come up with ideas, inspiring ideas to promote that unity. And alhamdulillah, we're more than open to ideas, feedback, suggestions, things where we can improve. We may be doing things wrong, etc., etc. So the platform there, in terms of we're open-minded, we're there for anybody's suggestion. We want to try and improve. We have to have that kind of open, mature manner, because this is the kind of, this links back to what the brother's saying. We have to, as I said, be able to work with people, because the general population, they don't know the details of where they should be divided on. It's the scholars that can really get on that platform to have that difference. But we as a general population, we haven't really got that level of knowledge to really go into detail of our differences. Rather, we're just following what someone else is, a label that's been put upon us, or a label that we've chosen, that we are a Hanifi or whatever we are. Rather, we should just try and, as I said, work with those who we can, for the sake of unity, for the sake of Allah, of course, inshallah, and try and follow these initiatives. As I said, if you, as the Ummah, don't participate, it will be lacking content, and it will take long to get off the ground. So this newsletter is an idea which needs your participation, as would be the sick list, as will be the things that to come in the future. Apart from that, the general announcement, inshallah, this Thursday is the homeless and needy initiative where we feed the homeless every 2 weeks. Inshallah, in Ramadan, maybe we can try and maybe increase that to every week, possibly. Maybe we could just do a takeaway service. But that's something that started in Ramadan. Subhanallah, it's nearly Ramadan again. So, alhamdulillah, try and get involved. That's another thing that promotes unity as well amongst us. And also, it's a very big dawah to the sick. Because it's one of the things that, inshallah, that shows our unity. There is no other announcements apart from that. Jazakallah khair for coming. Any of the talks you want to see that you may have missed in the past, you go onto the Ilm Center. That's theilmcenter.com, inshallah. And any community-based activities, you go onto onecommunitycenter.com. They all link up, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Sisters, if you want to leave first, you've got 5 minutes or so. Actually, you can maybe have a look at the CDs outside. And the brothers, you can just give the sisters some space to go, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير